Last night at 12 o'clock, when I was entering into my 60th year of life, I was standing in my family Gurdwara constructed with piety by my children Navtej and Simran at the entrance of my new office. I was concluding the Ardas with Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa and Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Before thanking all of you for your good wishes, I bow my head before the father figures of the bar, my own cousin T.S. Ruprah, Shri H.S. Srivastav, Shri S.C. Dutt, Mrs. Indra Nair, Shri M.L. Jaiswal, Shri H.S. Shoti, Shri R.N. Singh, Shri Raman Patel, Shri Adarsh Muni Trivedi, Shri R.P. Agrawal, Shri Ravish Agrawal, and Shri N.P. Dubey. Because of their presence in the bar, I feel my dad's hand on my head. Today, I, Narinderpal Singh Ruprah Advocate, am 60-year-old, practicing since 1984, and I have many stories for you to tell. I was born on 38 1961 to Hari Singh Ruprah and Mrs. Avtar Ruprah at Jabalpur. I adored my father's profession, who was an advocate, and decided to be one myself. My father said something which non-advocates just do not understand. Quote, I became an advocate because an advocate speaks truth, unquote. But non-advocates cannot understand all this. Legal profession is a profession of expertise. It is manifestation of the noble principle that no man should be condemned unheard. Even God asked Adam why he plucked the forbidden fruit before God condemned him. Unlike common belief, we are not liars. And if there are any liars in the bar, they are not successful advocates. I clearly remember late Justice B.C. Verma, who put me a specific question in the High Court more than 30 years ago. Have you examined that there is no alternative relief? I said yes, and the Honorable Judge believed me and did not feel the need to examine the statute and granted me the relief. That is the faith of a judge in the truthfulness of an advocate. Judiciary is a chariot of three wheels. One is the judge, one is the petitioner's counsel, and one is the respondent's counsel. Without one, the other is not. And no one is an employee of anyone. Judge is not an employee of the state. Petitioner's counsel is not an employee of his client. Respondent's counsel is not a servant of the respondent. The advocates are officers of the court and are responsible for the dispensation of justice equally, if not more, as the judge is. I have had the privilege to see many great lawyers. We often talk about great judges. But today, let us talk about some lawyers. Late Shri P.N. Dubey became Deputy AG after having preliminary years of training in the office of Shri R.N. Singh. As you know, Shri R.N. Singh, even at that time, was known to be very knowledgeable, courageous, but sophisticated and polite also. Shri P.N. Dubey was appearing against me in a service matter about 25 years ago, and I was arguing that there is no inquiry done in the present case and my client's termination order therefore is bad. The judge inquired from Shri P.N. Dubey, and he frankly conceded, yes, my lord, no inquiry has been done. And I won. I would have won even otherwise, but his performance expedited the disposal, and Shri P.N. Dubey continued to enjoy maximum respect with the bar as also with his client. One of the greatest judges in the High Court that the High Court has ever created is Shri Rajen Menon. As an advocate also, he was very intelligent and very fast and very helpful to his brothers and juniors like me. I am not fortunate to have seen Shri G.P. Singh, late Shri G.P. Singh, who retired before I joined the bar. But I must tell you one incident. When he was an advocate, he did not charge money from educational institutions. But one educational institution of Chhattisgarh was very much obliged to him because they had got great relief from him. They wanted to pay him something, but he would not accept. So they came to my dad. He was a young man at that time. He said that this is our problem. My dad said he will not agree, but okay, I will try. My father said work is very difficult. But they went on persuasion. He went, and after preliminaries, because Mr. G.P. Singh used to, as an advocate also, used to give a lot of respect to all lawyers, especially to my father. After preliminaries, a humble submission was made, please accept something. Mr. G.P. Singh did not reply and instead called his Munshi instead in a stern voice. Give them their file so that they can engage an advocate who accepts fee from an educational institution. With great apology, the matter was patched up and he was requested to continue as an advocate. Advocates were great friends of each other. Late Shri S.C. Chaturvedi had to do a recommendation for a work of my family. He had to go to some office with me. His car was not there on that day. I only had a motorcycle and it was raining. There was no raincoat. I was feeling extremely hesitant as to what to do. Mr. S.C. Chaturvedi said, चलो तुम्हारे मोटरसाइकिल में चलते हैं, मैं नमक का थोड़ा ही बना हूं कि घुल जाऊंगा. Great people and great generation it was. When I became an advocate, the chamber of Sri Prabhakar Rusya was right in front of mine. He commanded me to come to him and search a law point because it was with his blessings that I had topped the university. He also introduced me to a clientele, not considering me a rival at all. Affectionate, encouraging, and very knowledgeable those seniors were. Late Shri Nirmal Chand Jain, Senior Advocate General, and finally Governor of Rajasthan, was a great family friend of ours. Whenever there was any difference of opinion between me and my dad, he always used to support me. He was a strong supporter of my dad. His satire for my dad was irremovable president of the Lawyers Club. And I have seen late Mr. Y.S. Dharmadhikari and late Mr. R.P. Verma and late Mr. J.P. Sanghi, all of them bold and very knowledgeable. Every judge paid extreme respect to them. Their stature was great. My dad used to tell Mr. Y.S. Dharmadhikari, you are our leader to obey our commands. And there used to be laughter. Y.S. Dharmadhikari had the courage to admonish all the judges of the High Court for coming late in a farewell party organized to mark the retirement of Justice M.L. Malik. Courageous, learned, and eloquent he was. Justice D.M. Dharmadhikari and Mrs. Indira Nair were the most eloquent advocates whom I appreciated in my young days. I still like to see the arguments of Mrs. Nair. Late Mr. J.P. Sanghi was unsparingly eloquent and a formidable appearance in the High Court. Many will agree with me. I am indebted to Mr. R.P. Verma not because he taught me anything, but because I have myself stolen many of his drafts and have learnt myself from them all those drafts secretly. You young lawyers think that Justice Deepak Verma, who rose to the status of the Supreme Court judge, is the greatest in the family, and because even as an advocate he was very good, but he has not become equal to late Mr. R.P. Verma, Senior Advocate, whose respect was great in the bar. The towering personality of Mr. late Sardar Rajendra Singh, Senior Advocate, prevailed on the mind of the bar and the bench for about 50 years. Sardar Sahab was an embodiment of politeness, learning, and extreme professionalism. Once I was engaged in a bail application under the wrong impression that I was a senior. When the client came to know that I am a young boy, they went to Sardar Sahab and engaged him. I did not know this and I argued the matter. It was a bail matter which was rejected. Sardar Sahab entered the courtroom when I was concluding my arguments. The bail was then rejected. Sardar Sahab told my client, the young man has argued very well and I could not have done better. I have no words to praise him for his magnanimity, knowing fully well that I was zero in front of him. Shri S.C. Dutt was the busiest criminal lawyer even when I was in school, and he held this distinction 10 years ago till Manish wrested this distinction from his father. Shri Vivek Tankha is our family friend and he had to argue a personal case of ours. To explain him the facts, my dad wanted to go to his office. He said, no, I will come to you. You are senior. Why you should take the trouble? Tankha is undoubtedly a great man. Grandfather of Shreyas Pandit was senior late Shri V.S. Pandit Advocate. Dad wanted guidance from him. Dad took me along to Shri Pandit. But first we had to consume sumptuous snacks and only thereafter my dad was permitted to take guidance which he wanted. I was greatly impressed with V.S. the Veer Advocate. But my dad said, He is nothing in front of his elder brother R.S. David. Chief Justice P.V. Dixit was a terror because of his learning and strictness. Once he asked Mr. R.S. David, "Why should I admit your petition?" The reply was, "I have examined the case myself, and in my opinion, it is a fit case deserving admission and grant of stay. Hence, you should admit it as I am saying." And the judge did likewise. He commanded great respect in the High Court. Once my father was reading one section of an act to Chief Justice P.V. Dixit, and the judge said that he had read it so many times, he did not agree with the interpretation which my dad was attaching to it. But my father was insisting on reading the statute, saying, "Let us read it together, my lord." The honorable judge said, "Do you want to teach me law?" My father smiled humbly and replied, "With all due respect, my lord, this is my function as an advocate." And Justice Dixit read the statute along with my father and agreed with the interpretation which daddy was attaching to it. Justice Dixit was stern but equally magnanimous and soft within. Late Justice Fakhruddin, when he was an advocate, and also Shri S.C. Dutt, late Shri Y.S. Dharmadhikari, did hundreds of cases free of cost on the request of my father, who headed one unregistered body called MP Lawyers Guild. These persons otherwise were very costly lawyers. In my short tenure of 2 years in the AG office, I had the opportunity to learn a lot from Shri R.K. Gupta, Justice Raghu Gupta, retired now, late Shri B.M. Dwivedi, and late Shri Sanjay Seth, later on Chief Justice, and I owe much of my legal acumen to them. I have assisted only 2 lawyers in my life apart from my father. One is Shri H.S. Srivastava, Senior Advocate, whom I engaged in a tax matter, who guided me greatly and also introduced me to a clientele. The presence of Shri H.S. Srivastava in the bar today gives me great satisfaction and makes me feel that there is someone there to protect me, to guide me always. Second lawyer, of course, is late Shri Rajendra Tiwari, whom I engaged in a service matter, and I found him most receptive to the instructing lawyer, that is myself. Undoubtedly, he was a very great speaker. This is not the complete story of my observation of the bar over 37 years. There are great titans, many great titans about whom I want to tell to the young members of the bar, lest their message may extinguish in the sands of time. But let that be in some other time. For the time, goodbye. Thank you to all of you for wishing me happy birthday. Thank you to each and every member of the bar. Thank you, and thanks.